You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. This is episode number 143. Joined by my decent-looking co-host, as he likes to call himself, Jake Gaylord. You getting after the sheds like everybody else in this world, or no?
No. But so I mean, just saying, you called me decent-looking. You can't have it all, right? I already have the smarts. I have somewhat the looks, but I just can't find a shed or harvest a buck. So, I mean.
God can't give you everything.
That's basically what I'm trying to say.
The first comment on the shed video the other day was, "Why are Jakes so good? Why is everyone named Jake so good looking?" And I was like, "Who commented that?"
Someone named Jake.
Because we had Jake Ayers in the video, and then Jake commented that. That makes sense.
Jake Ayers is a beautiful man.
He's matured into a beautiful young man.
Yes.
So you're not shed hunting this at all. Do you plan on going at all?
I mean,
we did on public once.
We did, and we walked at least double-digit miles, and we didn't find a dang thing except some pretty good spots where we might fling an arrow or two at a buck,
and some toilet paper.
Yes, and but I think you did this last weekend, didn't you? Theo Vaughn this last weekend?
No, this past weekend. Yes,
this past weekend.
Yeah, we went out to a couple of the leases where people have. They're probably fairly familiar with folks that watch a lot of the videos. The place where Peyton shot his buck last year, where I shot the 6x7, and then the place where I shot the wide load. Yeah, the 7-pointer. Yeah, we went and shed hunted there. I was kind of disappointed in the spot that I shot the 7 and Drew shot that big, like 12-point or something last year. The one that scored 155. We found 4 sheds there, and
how
Carol
big
found.
Piece is that?
It's almost 200 acres.
Really?
Yeah, and there was like one freshie. Carol found it. You can see it. We just released a shed hunting video. We ended up finding 62 in one weekend and like several deadheads. So that video is live on YouTube right now. But you'll see the first shed that on video. Carol found it. A nice freshie. It's like over the fence, and Carol's like, "Ooh, I got one!" And I've never seen him so athletic until you see his shadow jumping over that fence.
I thought it was a pretty good video. Like, I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but I actually did learn something in that video.
That?
A, Carol is more athletic than he seems. And then B, there was a little small clip in there where I don't know who it was. One of Jake's friends was talking about, because one of y'all found like a little spike shed. And he was talking about how, like, which one was the front and like which way was the front, which way was the back of the spike. And he said something about like the concave piece being the front part. Was that right?
Concave or and convex. I don't even know what those words mean. So
concave is like a C, like, and then the convex is like the concave is the outer. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds photosynthesis.
Exactly. Anyways, we don't know what we're talking about, but he said it all without stuttering or pausing, so it sounded legit.
Yeah. No, that was Grady and his girlfriend. His girlfriend found like a. She found actually several sheds, but she found that little spike one. Those are the hardest to find. Those are the trophies.
I don't see how people find those.
Dude, Grady found one that was probably an 1.5 to 2 inches long, a spike. And he, like, by the end of the day, in the Snapchat group, he had already drilled a hole in it and put it on his keychain.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So how many did y'all end up finding like that?
We found 62 last weekend, and then I personally had my best weekend ever. I think I found 11.
That's pretty good.
So I found a match set. They were from last year, but I found a match set probably off a 120-inch buck. That was probably the best shed that I found. Was a, I don't know, 45, 50-inch shed maybe. But yeah, no, it was a great weekend. We hunted some places that we just absolutely got into them. Like there was one place we found like over 20 on one piece. Found some good deadheads. It was awesome. My feet were tore up by the end of the day or the end of the weekend. Though I was ready to go.
Yeah. So if it was torn up from walking to find sheds, how's tack going to treat you? Because tack's coming up in like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks at least.
Tack is, tack's brutal.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I'm wearing tennis shoes to tack. I'm not wearing boots. Screw that.
I wore tennis shoes last time, and it worked just fine.
Yeah, but for people that haven't been to Broken Bow or the tack at Broken Bow, it's up and down. Like, I remember we shot one course that day. We went and got lunch at a gas station, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm sunburned. I'm tired. I'm dehydrated. No, but I'm excited.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be fun because like last year we just shot one course, and this year we're gonna shoot all 3 days, and we think we're gonna try to squeeze in multiple courses a day, but we'll see how that goes. Saturday probably only one course, but Friday and Sunday it depends, I guess.
Yeah, we don't actually have a time booked. We haven't paid for Saturday to shoot yet.
No,
but hopefully we'll be able to shoot.
I thought you said after 1 you can shoot.
I think so. I think you can.
If not,
I'm shooting 4 on Friday.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. So shed hunting was awesome. We got tack coming up. A lot of exciting stuff is over the horizon. Heck, dude, once we get past tack, it'll be turkey season, and then it'll be freaking time to start looking at some pictures again on trail cams. I'm excited about
that. That is exciting. I'm ready.
Yeah. So the purpose of today's episode, Jake and I love to debate, and this is probably something, not really debate heatedly, but just kick ideas back and forth. So this is probably something we would do over a phone call, but we were like, why not do this on the podcast and share our opinion with you guys? So we're going to talk about 10 age-old hunting debates. So we got a couple different stances on either side, and we're just going to go.
Or we might have the same.
We might have the same opinion on a lot of these, but if we do, I'll be devil's advocate.
Okay.
Yeah,
that'll work.
So we're just going to walk through these. You guys will quickly figure out how this is going to go. So you want to start it with the first one, Jake? What do you got for us?
Yes. So the first one, and I know we've already kicked this back and forth multiple times on a podcast. And if you're a longtime listener, you probably already know this, but for all the new guys, if there is any new guys or gals, probably not gals, 99.9% of y'all, guarantee you, are men. So anyways, the first one would be age versus scores. So basically, are you a hunter that shoots for primarily age? Like, you would rather shoot a 120 or let's say 115 inch 6-year-old, or would you rather shoot a 150 inch 3-year-old?
I already know Jake's opinion on this, and it's just terrible. He's not a conservationist.
Pretend you're not talking to me. Pretend you're talking to the viewers.
Yeah. If I had to pick one side of this debate, it's very hard to sit on one side because there's so many different contexts. Like, there's public land, there's private land, and I feel like I'm honestly two different people when I hunt in those different contexts. But on private land specifically, age, because I have to with the people that I lease from. I will no longer have a place to hunt if I hunt score over age. But I think this is a tough one because a lot of the times when you're hunting a 5.5-year-old buck, and a lot of people listening probably have never hunted a 5.5-year-old buck. I know I hadn't until the last few years.
Well, according to some people on TikTok, 5.5 is young, and you're stupid if you shoot a 5.5-year-old.
Oh, the guy that said you should be shooting 8.5 and above. That's when their antlers are the biggest.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? God bless your standards, I guess.
God bless your one deer you've killed over 8.5. I mean, I know I've never killed one over 8.5.
Oh no, absolutely not.
No, I like hunting for age. I think they're more challenging to hunt. I think they, I don't know. There's something about killing a big-bodied, mature animal that is really, really satisfying. But to be honest with you, I don't think age and score are always mutually exclusive. Like, I think typically score does follow age, but where this gets a little dicey is when something's like 3.5 years old and it scores really well. That is where, for instance, I would compromise some of my standards. Like, let's say I had a 5.5-year-old buck that was 140, but I had a 4.5 that was 160. It'd be very hard for me to be like, okay, I'm going to shoot this one that's 20 inches smaller. Because I think everybody, whether you like it or not, wants to shoot a big high scoring deer. Right. Not necessarily because of the score, but because of how a deer that scores better looks. Like, they look bigger. They're bigger animals for the most part. So I'd prefer age, but I don't think that they're always mutually exclusive. I want to shoot something old and that scores high. What about you?
I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent. Like, first off, never pass your biggest buck. I think that should be everybody's motto, right? Because, like, let's say it is a 3-year-old that scores, you know, like 135 or something like that. Like, yeah, that deer probably has very good potential. Or heck, even if he scored 125 as a 3-year-old in a lot of parts, like, that's a good 3-year-old. Does he have potential? Yes, but if that's your biggest deer, in my opinion, fire away. Because, like, let's say you pass on those deer, right? And if you're anything like me, I don't really like shooting does the majority of the season, because it's like, you know, you never know what's trailing it. You know, you don't know when she'll be coming hot, and especially the longer it gets into season, the closer it gets to November, and it's just like, you're definitely not going to shoot a doe then. So what happens when that big, let's say the dream buck, the 5-6-year-old 150 comes strolling through? You're not going to know what to do. It's just like, can I draw back from here? I don't know. I've never even drew back on anything. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, shoot deer. And I feel like this is the okayest hunter model, but shoot deer. And then all that does is give you experience. So when that buck of a lifetime comes through, it's just like, you know, I might actually be able to seal the deal on this.
My fear is that we're raising a generation of deer hunters that pass deer for the sake of being cool and passing deer.
Right.
Like, oh, I haven't shot a 140, but I just passed that one. I'm like, that makes you dumb. Yeah, you look like that's silly.
Yeah. And I think there's a time and a place for that, right? Kind of like you say, like, public versus private, time and a place. Like, private for me, like, okay, just to get it out in front, like, I'd rather shoot for score over age any day. Like, I don't care because I'm 25 years old, right? I haven't shot just a crazy amount of deer in my life. Like, I think I have, like, what, four shoulder mounts. I got a few Euros and stuff, but for the most part, I have 4 shoulder mounts. And I can pass good deer in my 30s if I want to, or in my 40s if I want to.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, and you want to go like private versus public, you know, like, even though I am a score over age, like, I would, if I seen a 150-inch 2-year-old, like, let's just go to the extremes. If I see a 150-inch 2-year-old, I would shoot that over a 5.5 or 6.5, more extreme, a 9.5-year-old 120. I would rather do that. And if they're standing side by side, both broadside, let's say at a corn pile or whatever, and I had the option to shoot either or, I mean, if I had the option, Oklahoma has a 2-buck tag. I'm shooting both, obviously, trying to. But if I had to pick one, it's going to be that higher scoring deer. That's just where I'm at. I'm 25 years old. I'm not going to pass up a 150 right now. There ain't no way in heck. I don't care if that thing has a potential to be a 180 in a couple of years. Like, I don't care. Like, now, lower those limits a little bit. Just this, or I guess it'd be 2 years ago, I had a nice, probably mid 120s 3-year-old come strolling through my private piece, and I elected to pass on him just because, like, again, it's private. You could definitely see, like, we talked about it that year, you know, sending the trail cams back and forth. He looked still immature, you know, his tine length wasn't there, but overall he had, like, decent eye guards, decent tines, just a beautiful mainframe 10. And I ended up having him come in and elected to pass because it's just like, you know, this deer will probably be here next year. And he was. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the times that I wanted to pass. And so, like, it can be situational too. Like, you don't have to, I guess, lean on one side or the other, but, like, public, if that deer would have strolled out, it's getting whopped, or at least attempted to get whopped.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I'm trying to go back full circle. Is like, I can pass deer when I'm in my 30s or 40s. And I mean, if someone wants to be mad about that, they can just be mad about it. But I'll still grip and grin. I don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm with you. I kind of worry if people pass too many deer, and I understand, like, if you're on a really good lease or your family has a property and you know these deer are going to survive or at least have a good chance and you want to bet on the deer, that's one thing. But when you see people that have shot less than double-digit bucks and they're like, oh, I'm passing on this, I'm passing on that, and their biggest deer all the time, it's like, man, I'm afraid when something that strolls in that actually meets your standards, I'm afraid of your ability to kill it. You know what I mean? Because you're not killing a bunch of stuff. Like, maybe you're shooting a bunch of does, but let's just say people that only hunt bucks, like, you're not getting used to. Anyone that's bow hunting long enough knows that you have to get used to that arrow breaking, shooting. You have to shoot deer to get good at shooting deer. And if you're not shooting them, then you got a problem. And by the way, I don't care what anybody says, it's different shooting a doe than a buck. Like, I don't get super nervous on shooting does. I used to get super nervous about shooting does, but now when like something with horns comes in, like, I'm still getting as nervous as I've ever been.
Yeah.
But it's just learning how to control those things. And Justin always told me, you can celebrate after you've shot. Don't celebrate before. I used to celebrate way before. Like, big buck coming in, I'm like, I won. I got him. and then he runs, and then I miss and he runs away. Like, that's happened to me many times. But I think once people have really got all those reps in, that's when they can start worrying about, like, okay, I want to manage for age. I want to try to optimize for score. I want to improve my property to grow bigger bucks. Yeah, but go out there and become a good hunter first, and then worry about all that other crap later. We kind of put the cart before the horse, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I think about it in context of age versus score. Like, everybody wants to be a big property manager. Be a deer killer, and then we'll get all the other stuff we can work on later. That's at least that's how I think about it.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Kill deer.
You could do a full podcast on this. We could do a full podcast on this, and I have actually heard full podcasts on this subject. Number 2 is the age-old debate: fixed versus mechanical broadheads. Which side of the fence are we on here? I think I've changed my opinion on this just a little bit. Did you go first on the last one?
Yeah, okay. You're up.
All right. So when people are bow hunting, the whole argument for expandable broadheads is accuracy. And I totally agree that an accurately placed arrow with a field point is probably going to end up killing a deer. So when people use the expandable debate, it's typically based on, I want to be accurate. That's my number one priority. And I totally agree with that. And also, there's another vein this goes in of, like, people don't want to resight their bow for fixed broadheads. And I empathize with that too, because that freaking sucks. Because then you go shoot your field points and they're off and they're different from your fixed. But more recently in my hunting career, I have used fixed blade broadheads. And one of the reasons for that is I listened to Joe Miles the other day talk about it a little bit, like about controlling the variables that you can control. And you are inviting some margin of error when you bring a fixed blade broadhead in, or a expandable broadhead in, because anything that has to open to create that cutting diameter is something that could fail. And you see people do it all the time. They shoot and they're like, oh, broadhead never opened. That's not why I killed him. I'm like, it could be because you shot him in the back flank. That could be why.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you brought that up, because the other day I was listening to a podcast, and I think it was Exodus's podcast, but they were talking with somebody. It might have been something along with like broadheads or something along those lines. But he said the way to think of a mechanical is, imagine you have this like head high tall grass, and when you're going through it, imagine if you have your arms straight out to the side and you're trying to go through it. And he said, if it's super thick, or even if it isn't grass, if it's like limbs and all that stuff, because, if you have grass, let's say that's like the flesh and all that stuff. And, let's say you have trees and low hanging branches, like think of those as like the ribs and like maybe the shoulder bone, something like that. Try to walk like that through all of that and see if you get hung up on anything and how much force it takes to rip your arms through all that debris. Now he said the slower you go, the harder it's going to be. But he said the faster you go, you got a better chance of ripping through that stuff. And he said that's the same way with a expandable. And it's kind of a good point because like talking about those far quartered away shots, like going through the guts and stuff, like that's a lot of junk to go through. Like hitting those guts, at least from a quartered away shot, is like hitting, is at least what this guy said, is like hitting a shooting target bag. You know what I mean? Like just it'll stop it really easily, especially with an expandable, and it very well could with the fix too. But like, yeah, I mean, I'll let you continue. But
that was a good point. I thought about that. Like I was thinking about that when you're shooting a deer broadside. Think about the distance that the arrow has to travel to get all the way through. That might be 18 inches, right? Like a foot and a half to go all the way through the animal. When you're shooting a quartering shot, that distance might be 3 foot, 4 foot, you know? And it's like you're expecting the same level of penetration, which you are not going to get. Because if you shot a deer broadside and there was 4 deer stacked back to back, you're not going through all of them.
Your 6x7 is a perfect example because both times you shot it a little quartered away, and on that second shot, you kind of hit back in the guts, obviously because it was quartered away, but you hardly got any arrow penetration. We're using a fixed or an expandable.
That was an expandable. Yeah.
See, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, it went in. I bet it went in at 8 inches, 12 inches, something like that. But it looked like, I remember shooting and being like, dude, that didn't go in at all. And then I got to talking with people, you know, I talked with Scott from Thorn Broadheads, and he was like, you got to think, like, there's a lot to go through right there. And I was like, yeah, that's probably not an expandable issue. That's probably an angle issue. And I'm not shooting 80 pounds, and I'm not. Right. So anyways, that the fixed versus mechanical debate, kind of where I would leave it with my opinion on it, is if you're accurate, shoot whatever you want. Like, you have to shoot something that you have confidence in. And if an expandable gives you confidence, that's great. If a fixed gives you confidence, that's great. But don't use your laziness as a way to say, well, I'm only shooting expandables because I don't want to do any more work, and I don't want to shoot my bow at all, and I want to know that I'm going to put my quiver on it. It's going to shoot exactly where it is. If you practice and you feel accurate, shoot whatever you want. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't want to sound like I don't care, but I mean, I really don't get like I really don't have a preference. Like the only fixed I shot here recently, besides like an Allen Broadhead a few years ago, was Thorn Broadhead's the Crown, and I kind of fell in love with that thing. Like the mechanical side of it, it was just like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously now it seems like all mechanicals basically somewhat shoot the same, right? Like,
right, they're accurate.
If you hit a deer good, like obviously anything's going to kill it, but there wasn't like anything that I was just like crazy over. Like, yeah, they all look nice and all that stuff, but in my opinion, it was just like the same old broadhead for the mechanical side, at least. But again, I guess they don't have like too crazy of like a list of broadheads on that, but they're fixed. The Crown, that thing is sexy, right? Like,
cool.
It looks cool. It flies cooler than it looks. Like that thing's a beauty. But with that being said, I think if I was if I had two options, whether it be the Crown or what I fell in love with the past few years is the Grim Reaper Whitetail Specials. And you know, this 3-blade mechanical, and that thing has zipped through some deer. Now, granted, they've been relatively good shots and stuff, but I don't know. If I was to pick one, I think it'd be mechanical. But again, it all depends on the person. Like, are you a person that wants to, I guess, be ready for something crazy to happen? Because obviously deer duck, they turn away, and all that stuff. So every now and then, if you hunt long enough, you're going to get marginal shots or even bad shots. And people are like, oh, I'm going to use an expandable just in case for those shots. But on the flip side, you can say the same thing about the fix. Like, oh, just in case that happens and I hit shoulder or something, I want something that's going to pop through. And it's just like, you just got to pick your poison. And like, I think out of all these questions, I think like, honestly, the fix versus expandable is like the one I could probably care less about, because just like, it's whatever you feel confident in. Like my two broadheads, if I was to go, if you were to tell me I'm going to shoot a 150-inch deer tomorrow, and it's a guaranteed, like he's coming in every day, the same time, this is the stand, you got perfect wind, perfect weather, your access is going to be beautiful. What are you going to take in? Like the crown or the whitetail special? I'm probably going to say the whitetail special.
Yeah, that's what you have confidence and experience with. So that's what you're probably going to lean to. And I want to say this in closing up this one. I shot 5 deer this year, or 6. Yeah, 5. No, I shot 6. But anyways.
A lot.
Yeah, so many. But no, I got 5 pass-throughs with an NAP Thunderhead and an Exodus MMT arrow, which was lighter than any arrow I've shot in the last 4 years. But I would say this, every shot is so different. Like every shot is, I truly believe you never have the exact same distance, the exact same angle, the exact same impact ever. I think that's like once. Everyone is completely different. So you can have instances where you shoot an expandable and it zips through like butter. And you can have an instance where you shoot a fix and it doesn't penetrate worth a crap. And you're like, oh, see that? If I shoot an expandable, every shot is different. You don't know if that arrow or if that broadhead hit a rib. You don't know the deflection. You have no idea the exact angle that deer was standing. So when you take all that in, shoot something that gives you confidence that when this arrow flies, it's going to hit where I want it to go, and I'm putting that deer down. And honestly, I've found a lot of different broadheads that have given me confidence. Swackers, NAPs, Thorns, Rage. I've killed them all I've probably used 8-9 different broadheads, and I've killed deer with all of them. So I could care less too. Yeah.
That's good. Next question. And I feel like there's a lot of controversy wrapped around this one. Scent control versus no scent control. What do you got on that?
Dude, I've went probably on every edge of the spectrum you can on this. Like from 8 years old to 16 years old, our scent control was step in a cow patty on your way in. Like that was our scent control. To when I started doing a little more hunting on my own, I was like, well, I'm about sick of getting winded. So like I would have my grandma stop at Walmart and I would get pretty much like every scent control product you would. And I would spray down all the time, and I'd go out and I'd get winded again. I'm like, God, like I can't win when it comes to scent control. Well, at about 18 years old, 19 years old, I started out hanging out with our buddy Jake, and he was like, we went to his house and he was talking about stand locations, and he said, yeah, we can't hunt this one because of this wind. And I was like, what do you mean by that?
But you got a picture of this buck on this one, so why aren't we hunting this one?
Yeah, he was like, we can't hunt this one. These are the stands we can hunt based on this wind. And I was like, that was my first introduction to playing the wind. And when we got out of the truck, we would go and like no scent control, no anything. And we wouldn't get winded because we were playing the wind. And that was my first introduction. And probably since that time, I've bought 1 or 2 bottles of Scent Away, like in the last 6 years. And I've tried to play the wind. Contrary, you juxtapose that with public, where we hunt, and some other folks from PA and maybe like the Eastern Coast might have this same experience. Arkansas, when you hunt in the mountains, the wind is bullcrap. You get on your weather app, it says southwest. It could be northeast. Like and by the way, it seems like it's never the same way when you get down in those bowls. Like it switches, like it'll be northeast and then it'll be coming from the south. And so from that perspective,
usually within a couple hours too.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes.
Oh yeah. And from that perspective, I don't want to say impossible because that's not the right word, but it is very hard to play the wind consistently. And when I get up in the tree, if I've put in a lot of work to get into that stand location, I'm not getting down because the wind switched. Like, not happening. I'm not moving.
Yeah, we had this saying where it was like, yeah, if you climb up in your tree and the wind's wrong, all you got to do is just turn your stand all the way around the tree, 180 degrees, and then just sit and watch that way.
Yeah.
Because that's about all you can do. And the good thing about those mountain deer too is, like, as we already discussed, like, they bed anywhere. There's no rhyme or reason on why they should be walking from this way or where they're going or anything like that. So, like, that's kind of the love-hate relationship part of it. Just like, yeah, like, the wind's unknown on what it's going to be, but so is the buck movement in a way. So just like the stars really do have to align, especially in that in like the mountainous area.
We did some I did some research one time for a TikTok about how many like human odor molecules there are, and like I think there was hundreds, and there was some research that showed that like certain scent control products could eliminate like 20 something, 30 something of those, and maybe that could be the difference between you killing a buck and not. But for me, I lean on the other side of the fence of like, on private, I'm going to play the wind, so I don't need scent control. And on public, I'm going to get screwed either way. So I'm like, might as well save $12 and not. I don't carry a bottle of scent control. Like I used to be when we would get on public, I'd be like, dude, who's got the scent control? And like we'd leave it, and I'd be like, dude, dang it. Like I would not feel good about the sit. Now it's just like, nah, it's fine. Do you still use it?
I mean, if it's just like available, if it's just sitting in the back of your truck or something, yeah, I'll spray, because even if it's 0.01%, bettering your odds, like just a minuscule amount, then it's just like I'll do it. But the thing is, I'm not going to go out of my way to do something that I think that like won't really benefit me. You know what I mean? Like it's like a time versus effort ordeal. It's like, even if I do the max scent control or whatever, like, could it help me? Yeah, but also it might not, because again, like if we hunt public, yeah, we could take the extra time and do the John Eberhart way and, have everything in a tote and get ready after we get out of the truck and do all that stuff. But for the most part, like day 4, heck, even day 3, end of the little November vacation, I'm not going to give a dang about any of that, because it's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get too off subject, but like it is like a mind screw up type thing down there. Cause like, you're going to have low deer density in the mountainous area, right? Or at least see very few deer. And it's just like, by the end of that, it's just like, why am I even doing all this anyways? Like scent control, like there's not even anything that's going to win me anyways. So anything to help a little bit more of a mental state while I hunt, it's just like, I'm going to do that. Like if I just add on an extra like process of trying to get all my scent, like everything scent free or close to scent free, then I'm not even going to worry about that, just for like my mental health, I should say.
That's fair. And I will say that there might be specific situations that people that are listening are like, oh no, I need scent control when I do this because I'm pushing the edge. Or
what would that be?
I just think of a situation like where a guy is sitting like you always hear people say like a quartering wind, like a wind where you're almost favoring the deer. It's like, well, I want to give myself every opportunity to go to the 10th degree of anything that I can control. And to them, I would say more power to you. That's awesome. I don't, maybe. And the more that I think about it, maybe I should, but then again, when I have it, I use it, like I don't think it hurts anything, but I just don't actively seek it out. If I have it, I'll use it. So
do you think you're ever gonna try like the John Eberhart method?
Maybe. I don't know. It sounds like if what they say is true, then it sounds great, but it's also an investment. And I've invested so much money into clothing already that I'm like, if someone gave me a ScentLock suit, I'd try it. But I probably won't seek one out to purchase for a while. That's just how I'm thinking about it. Okay. So next one, number 4. What hunting means to different people. Trying to think if there's a better way to say that. Probably not.
Yeah. So what I got off this is what hunting means to different people. And so for some people, hunting could mean, has to be low fence, fair chase. And apparently now, to be considered the end all be all hunter of the woods, you have to kill one out of a saddle on public, right? Like
Right.
that's some people. If you shoot a deer on private, they're like, oh great, you're shooting fish in a barrel. And then there's other people that are on the complete opposite side of that spectrum, where it's just like their idea of hunting is paying somebody to sit in a redneck blind in a high fence operation and kill a
300
basically, and like they consider that hunting, and it's just I just feel like that's a good topic to touch on, because like hunting can mean hundreds of different things. Like people can go hunting to just sit out in the woods and seek God, and then other people can go out in the woods and not see a deer and then be PO'd about it. You know what I mean? And then like even if you don't see anything, one person's happy and like full of joy, and the other person's all bummed out. And it's just like there's that aspect of it, and then there's the aspect of if I didn't kill my target buck, then it was a crappy season, even though I seen X amount of good bucks. And then there's other people that like me, when I first started hunting, I literally seen 2 deer all like, and this probably has to do a lot with scent control and stuff, because at the time I literally so just to get off on I'll go ahead and say it. It has to do a lot with scent control, because before we weren't playing the wind, and I just got my very first trail camera at the time. And so what I did is, we used to have a whole bunch of chickens, and we always had like a whole bunch, like a lot of bags of that cracked corn that you toss out for the chickens. I would bring a tin pail, like a tin bucket full of that cracked corn, and I would carry it all the way out there to the buddy stand. And the only reason I didn't carry more at a time is because I wanted to go out there daily and check that trail camera. And so every day I would bring a bucket of cracked corn. I'd walk it out there, pour it on the ground, check the camera, see what came in. And then like I love doing that. I love doing that. And if you did that today, you would be shunned. And it's just like, well, thankfully I didn't have social media at the time or anything like that. But
neither did anybody.
Right. But that's what I did. And where are we going with this? Yeah, what it means to different people. Yeah, so like that's what I did, and I only seen two deer that whole season, and I was trying to bow hunt. I think it was my first year in the bow hunting, or close to that. And I thought that was awesome. I had an encounter. The closest a doe got to me was like probably 25 yards while I was in the stand, and I was like, oh, I seen a deer today. Like that was really close. Like I almost was able to shoot one. Like, and I consider that cool. And it's just weird how hunting can mean so many different things.
It can. I wonder, one of the things I wonder is how many people would hunt if you could never show anybody. That's one of the questions that I think about often when in a world of social media. It's like, I guess we don't have to really worry about this, and I don't want to act like I'm an old wise person, because I'm not that old. But we did
Wisdom
start hunting
beyond your years, young grasshopper.
Yeah. We did start hunting before social media, and I remember just like trying to describe things to people without a picture. You're like, it's like this big and that bass. I swear, dude, it was like, imagine my foot's here, and then it's like here, and you're like,
that's what we used to do with fish. We used to literally lay them down next to the rubber boot and be like, this is a size 8 boot. And then like we would snap a picture, and like that's how we measured fish. It's like it was this long. It didn't matter if it was like super thin or whatever. You could always do that fisherman arm and hold it way out, like people do with deer and stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's hilarious.
It is. But when we used to hunt, I remember calling you on the phone, and you'd be like, dude, I shot a buck today. And you said, I think it was like a 7 point or a 9 point or something. And I didn't get to see the buck that you shot until I came over to your house and you showed me the skull cap. And like, that's, that's how we grew up hunting. But now it's like, when you intertwine like money and content and sponsors and all these things. It's like, my only question would be for people is like, how many people would quit doing it if it wasn't cool to hunt? Now we're even in this trend where it's like sustainability. It's like, I want to know where my food comes from. So like now it's cool to hunt, whereas 5 years ago, it's like, oh, you murdering POS. But now it's like, it's cool to hunt. It's like, I know where my meat comes from. The government's not poisoning me. Like there's so many, it's almost like becoming cool to hunt. And it's just like, I guess it's a stupid way to think about it because
it's like, wild because it used to be a necessity. You know what I mean?
You have to.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But one of the things I worry about, and one of the things I wrote out here was like, and I've heard this on several different platforms, was like, we're raising people that don't love to hunt for the thrill of the hunt or the challenge, and they just want to hunt to be like a glorified trigger man. Like they want to go out. They want to get it on video. They want to shoot the biggest buck possible. And it's not about anything else other than that.
Tell that Don Higgins story.
Oh, that was nuts. You guys can listen to it on it's the most recent episode of Chasing Giants. I don't know exactly the number it was, but this one really opened my eyes a lot. But Don Higgins was telling a story about he used to have captive deer. And he's, the biggest thing for captive deer, the biggest money in it is selling them to ranches to hunt. Like that's where the money is on the big bucks. So he sold a buck to this ranch to hunt. And the guy wanted him to pull up to this gate quietly, open the gate, open the pen, and let the buck run out of the trailer that he had, because there was a hunter set up like 200 yards away. And what they were hoping was when they opened up this high fence and let this buck in, that would run down this ridge and this hunter would shoot it. And he was like debating doing it or not. And he said that he did. He ultimately did. And he closed up his trailer real quiet. And he said he wasn't like 1,000 yards down the road. And he got a picture of the buck. And it was like, he's like, great job. It worked perfect. The guy's pumped up. And I was just like, and he said that was the reason that he quit raising captive deer. And I was sitting there just thinking about that. I was like, that is the most unfulfilling version of hunting that you can ever think about. That's not hunting in any sense of the word. Right. That's not hunting at all.
And I agree. But for that person sitting in the blind, like he just hunted. Right.
And that's what we're making it into. That's what I'm saying when you intermix money and inches, and like it's almost like a dong measuring contest. It's like, dude, I got a 400-inch deer. It's like, I don't care if you have a 400-inch deer. First of all, I didn't shoot my deer for you, and you shouldn't shoot your deer for me. Like,
and it, I don't want to get too, what's the right word, cliche or whatever, but again, you've heard this 1,000 times. It's called hunting, not killing, right? Like to hunt something, it's to basically get in that mindset of what the deer likes, where it lives, where it travels, and you physically and mentally hunt that deer. And even when you put all the right things together and the stars aligned, you still might not even go home with that buck or that doe or whatever animal you're chasing. And it's just like, people, like, if people would just listen to what they say, like, oh, I'm going to go hunting this weekend. It's just like, think about what you just said. Like if you're that person that sat in the blind and killed that deer that was 3 minutes from being out of a trailer, then it's just like, did you hunt or did you kill? Like, yeah, you had to make the right shot and stuff like that. But there's a lot of kids that probably could have made that shot.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to go one way or the other, because, if that's where you find God is sitting in a redneck blind, waiting on a 300-incher to walk out from someone's trailer, more power to you, because in the grand scheme of things, like, this really doesn't matter. But it's just like, I guess that's a take home, is like, think about what you say. And this could work for a lot of ways other than just hunting, but like the word hunt, like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And to me, the fun part is the pursuit. So when
put
you
the pieces together, absolutely.
That's what we've talked about, though, is like, I try to gather as many perspectives as I can. I've done outfitting. I've done an outfitted deer hunt. I've done an outfitted waterfowl hunt, and it's fun. I have a deer on the wall because of it. But when I took the 90% of the story out of it in the pursuit, like the setting up, the finding the animal, the tracking, all that stuff, it took like 90% of the joy out of it too, for me. Other people might not find joy in the pursuit, right? They might not like that, but
that's 90% of the effort too.
It is like you can take away that 90% of the effort and outsource that to someone else to do for you. And to me, as a hunter, I didn't find that as much fun, because when we get up and we're waking up and like we've slept in the truck or something on public land and like we're going to check out trail cameras, that I'm not going to say I am. I'm almost as excited as when I see that deer. Like when I find him on trail camera, it's like I feel like Dog the Bounty Hunter. I'm like, I found you. You were hiding and I found you. You slipped up and I'm going to find you and I'm Liam Neeson and I'm going to kill you. Like that's how I feel when I get that trail cam picture. So to take that aspect, the pursuit out of it, makes it a meaningless effort for me. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites sound harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Right.
It's not as fun.
Well, you told that one story, and I don't know if it was on Don's podcast, the other one about the dude shooting the smaller buck and then the cameraman climbing down.
Yeah.
You wanna touch that one too?
Oh, it was on the same podcast, but he was talking about a TV personality that shot like a 130-inch buck, and the cameraman started to get out of the tree stand or something, and he said, "Stop." He said, "We're waiting for something." This isn't a one buck state. He said, "We're waiting for something bigger." He said, "If we don't shoot anything bigger this hunt, we'll take that 130-incher. But if we do shoot something bigger, we'll just delete the footage and leave that one." That's what the guy said. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're going. Like the Bible says, it doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And when people love money, they will do anything, including corrupt something that so many people find joy and excitement out of, and make it something it's not. Like I can't stand that. But to each their own, I guess. And I guess the Trump ball in this is legal and ethical. That's like you can do whatever you want. But
yeah, but there's a lot of things that are that are considered legal and considered ethical that still isn't right. Yeah.
And I guess every person has to choose that for themselves and find a way to hunt that you enjoy and get the most joy out of it. John Eberhardt was a good guest on this because he said, "I don't like where it's going, but I'll be dead and I won't be here to see it." Right. And I was like, that doesn't make me confident. I'm young. I don't want to see where it's going to go. You know what I mean? I really don't.
And again, we're not saying you have to, hunt public only out of a saddle and do it shooting a traditional bow with your fingers. Like that's not what we're saying. Now, if you do that, send us a message. We'd love to get you on the podcast. But well, you got anything else on that?
No, I think we're good on that one.
All right. Mountain rugged public hunting versus manicured beautiful property with box blinds and food plots.
Both, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they brought out like a hunting menu and it had like 2 items, it was like public land out of the saddle and redneck over brassica's food plot with 190, I'd be like, I'll take one of both. I love both. Like,
let me buy a vowel.
it's the yin, and I think about public and private as like the yin and the yang of hunting. Like they go together. On one hand, you get to hunt an animal that is acting like a deer should. I've never heard a deer snort wheeze on public land. I went to a piece of private that is hunted the correct way, and I heard snort wheezes. I heard rattling. I heard just noises I've never heard out of a deer before, and it was awesome. And I like that. And I like being able to chase a mature animal and know that if I don't mess it up, I'm probably going to be able to get a shot at this deer. But on the other hand, it's very fun to go on public and be like, everything is against me here. Like, not only is the deer against me, the people are against me. I'm battling just a bunch of different factors I can't control while still managing my emotions and wanting to kill that deer so bad. And it makes it extremely rewarding. Like just like we talked about the other day, my biggest buck is not my favorite buck. My public land buck that I shot with my bow in 2020 is my favorite deer I've ever shot, even though it's not my biggest deer. It's like my third biggest deer. But the story, the work, the process that went into that deer makes it very, very sweet. If I had to think about these two as a menu, I would take one of each. These aren't verses; these are and or in my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I think you nailed that one on the head. Like, I don't think there's anything else I really need to touch on that. But I guess we could ask this question with it as well about how mountain hunting seems sexy, but it's not. You know what I mean? Because like you listen to some podcasts and I guess some people would be like, I don't know what podcast you're listening to because I've never heard that in my life. But to me, at least, it's just like, it seems like every person, like if you were to ask them their dream scenario, like whether it be setting up on the corner of a cornfield, and waiting for that 150 to walk out, just this beautiful scenery where even if a deer's 500 yards away, you can see where they're kind of funneling out of the timber into the field and you can see them walk the edge and just basically see how they act. And like, you're entertained in that, like that, I feel like is the majority of the people's like dream scenario setup type ordeal. And then you have those people that hunt the mountainous area. I mean, like Bo, I always murder his last name. Yeah. Martonic. Yep. And, you have him who's primarily like hunts Pennsylvania. Like that's what he's known for, is that big woods, hill country, thick timber type scenarios. And it's just like, it seems sexy. Like, oh yeah, I'm hunting mountain bucks. I'm up here, the big woods. Like that's, I think to me, like that's like the sexiest thing out of all, because we've kind of did a little bit of it. Like we went to Kansas, we were able to hunt over the bean fields and stuff, and it was great. Like I 100% see the draw to like the Midwest states, and I couldn't even imagine sitting over a cornfield and stuff like that. That would be amazing. But as of right now, I'm more partial to that mountain country. But the thing is, like, it seems sexy, and it seems like like that's what everybody's like wanting to kind of move towards. It almost feels like. But the thing is like they don't see the downside to it. Like they might be able to understand it, but it's just like until you're there with low deer density and a place where I would say most of the time you can't even see 50 to 75 yards. And it's just like, if I don't hear anything like a deer blow or something, because that's another thing. Like, and it could be the wind swirling down on those bowls or whatever. But a lot of times I think down there, deer just blow to blow. So unless you just hear the blowing or you actually see one or something like that, just like you feel hopeless, like you feel out of the ball game. You feel like you don't know what you're doing. Like every move you make is wrong. And then all of a sudden one comes strolling by and you're like, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is like mountain hunting isn't as sexy as everybody thinks, if that makes sense.
It's not. It's not as sexy as everybody thinks, but it's more rewarding than, and this is kind of like I think we talked about this on the phone the other day. It was like mountain hunting is regarded as like the hardest thing to do for whitetail. And so if you're successful, like 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3 years, it's like, oh, that's a good mountain hunter. Like, and I just think that's interesting. Like, if you have a manicured farm, people are going to expect you to kill a big mature buck every single year. And if you hunt public land, mountain hunting, there's almost always not an excuse, but there's always a reason that you didn't kill a good one. And I would agree. There is always a reason. And for us, it seems like it's somebody walking under the tree. Or at least that's what Carol would say.
We need him on here. I called him earlier, and he, like after 5 seconds, he's like, "I got a work call. I'll call you back."
Didn't call you back, did he?
No.
All right. So number 6 is I think this one's near and dear to your heart. Picking a tree versus debating where to sit.
Dude, if I could narrow my hunting career, I bet you at least 85% of my time hunting, at least public land, is picking a tree. Because, dude, let me tell you, I have that mentality of the grass is always greener on the other side. Like, for instance, in Kansas, this last year, on the second week of that rutcation trip, my very first sit in here, I was like, instead of just finding the best sign, like I'm wanting to like really work through this area because we got days to spend, there, we thought. And like I'm just wanting to find the best piece of sign. Well, what's the best piece of sign you could think of?
Scrapes, rubs.
Yes, there was
Deer
that,
tracks.
but also it's November probably 8th through the 10th, somewhere around there, and you're in Kansas. There was literally like 2 doe that ran by me at like probably 25 yards, panting like they were getting chased, and I was like, "That's like the best sign out of all of them." I think is like a doe in heat, and I was like, "I'm going to set up here," but I walked down this trail and I was like, like I need to set up over here because this looks like, a pretty good crossing. But I was like, don't be stupid. Sit where you just seen a doe in heat at. So I went back, set up, and ended up like picking a tree. And I was like, this one tree has to work. And like, again, I say that quickly. I was sitting there for probably, I'm not even kidding, probably close to half an hour trying to find the right tree in this little section of timber. And I go pick a tree. I'm like, I'm just going to have to make that one work. I get crawled all the way up there and get my platform on there. And then to go to step up on it. And I'm like, I have no shooting lanes whatsoever. Like it was like just thick. It was like a canopy was surrounding me. And I was like, it's either this or I'm 5 yards off the ground or 5 feet off the ground on this tree. So long story short, I had to go back to the original spot and set up. But down in the mountain country, like every tree looks the same. So it's like you shouldn't have a problem picking a tree, but I still do. I'm like, do I need to set up on this side of the drainage? Do I need to set up on this side of the drainage? Like I feel like I always think. And then when I get set up, I'm like, I should have went another 200 yards deeper. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those things. And that's something I still haven't fixed. So
picking a tree.
Yeah. You're the complete opposite though, because 2021 or sometime you tagged out when we were down there hunting Oklahoma public, and we were back at the booner spot, and you said we were trying to move a little bit because we weren't going to sit in that original kill tree, and I was sitting there like looking like at trees, and you're like, this one, and I was like, why do you say this one? He was like, you got good shooting lanes, it's pretty close to the edge of the timber where the timber meets the tall grass and stuff, and you're like, this one, and I was like, okay, but the whole time I was like, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I've hunted in the mountains enough to know. I'll tell a brief story. This is probably the number one reason that I am that way. Justin and I hunted in the community center. We hunted the original tree that I always hunt. Okay. Well, while we hunted the original tree, 80 yards behind us down this creek bottom, one doe comes running by and 3 bucks are chasing her. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's sick. Like that's where we need to be. They're going to keep doing that. Okay. Well, the next day we move over there. Now the deer, the next bucks that come by are 80 yards by our original tree.
Where this was in sitting, 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah. We were sitting a few days before. And then on top of that, we saw other bucks, another 150 yards up on the ridge running that way. And what I've realized in the mountainous habitat is not this way in ag and stuff. I do believe there is a right tree in ag and those kind of countries. But in the mountainous habitat, it's like those deer, you look at the trails, they don't walk the same trail every single day. it's almost like they carve a trail and it's different every single day. So it's like, in my mind, if you sitting in the same tree, as long as it's not way out of the action, is going to be more advantageous to moving around, because eventually, in my mind, they're going to come by that one tree. And I don't put too much thought into it unless I see deer doing something different consistently where I'm like, I'll move and I'll go over there. But I just think like you'll drive yourself nuts looking for the right tree. I just get up in the tree. And also, this is one of my motivations to be able to shoot far. Like I'm talking like 60 and in, is that if I put myself 10 yards out of the game, I still have range with my equipment to make up for that. That's the way that I think about it.
That's a good point. But not me. I'll spend half an hour, dude.
One of these days, you're going to be sitting at the bottom of your tree after like half an hour, and like a 170 is going to come marching by. You're like, dude, if I'd just pick the tree.
That's the day I get as high as I can and jump off. No, but I'm serious. Like there, I mean, I don't want to talk too much longer on this, but like there's been times, even in the place with all the pine trees and stuff, like there's been times I would connect my bottom piece to one tree, and then as I look around, I'm like, that tree seems better, and I'd go and connect my top piece to this one, and then go get my bottom piece, and it's just like really? But dude, the grass is always greener, man.
I think the grass is dead on both sides, and I'm just praying. That's the way.
Well, that's what I need to get through, I guess.
That's the way I think about it.
All right, so this was a thought I had a while back ago, and I made a TikTok on it. But I just get to thinking, like, for us, the way we think is that if an area is unpressured, no human intrusion, you would think that deer would get bigger, correct?
You would think.
So that takes me back, and I'm like, so what about before like the English settlement, right? Before the Mayflower came over, and it was just a whole bunch of Native Americans running around slinging arrows at stuff with bows that shot 50 feet per second.
50, yeah.
And do you think the deer were bigger? And there was one comment on there that made a good point, that they thought no, because the way like the world works now is like there's a whole lot of like agriculture, and those places like the Midwest where there's a whole bunch of like farming, corn, beans, all that good stuff, like that brings enough nutrients. But I don't really agree with that. In a way, I can kind of see it, but also I'm like, no, because all the other places, like, like for example, it's just what we know, the mountain country, like there's no farming there, but there's still big deer.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought on that?
For my imagination's sake, I want to say yes. Like, I want to think that one day when a river reroutes and it goes on a different route that it was on for 500 years, that there's going to, like a deadhead's going to come up out of the mud that's like 450-inch typical or something like that. That's how I want to think about it. In all reality, I bet the top end was probably the same. Like, I think
so?
I think the genetic maximum has probably somewhat been the same for a long period of time. I think the quantity of big ones could have been more. That's kind of how I think about it. Like, if the deer were getting to maturity and the only thing killing a deer is predation, because think about deer now, like most deer aren't dying for predation. It's probably people.
But that brings a good point too. Like, let's say, because Oklahoma used to have, cougars and wolves, possibly, I think. Mm-hmm. And then but regardless, I know wolves were a lot more frequent in a lot of states where they're not now, and probably same with bears and other predatory species. And it's just like those could have been killing them.
More
probably not as frequent as humans today, but like at the time, like I'm sure it probably put a dent in a couple like population groups.
What's more deadly, 2,000 mountain lions or 350,000 Michiganders with rifles?
Depends who you ask.
I mean, that's kind of my argument, is like, I bet And I know that deer were like and stuff where most of these ungulates were hunted to the point of like almost extinction, right? And that's where conservation like saved a lot of these species. But I I just like to think, and this is rooted in no fact or science. I just like to think that there were like 180 inchers running around everywhere. I
Yeah.
just like to think that, and I like to think there was Native Americans, our ancestors, that were like being like, "Gosh, I wish I could shoot 30 yards. He's right over there."
Just gonna go down to the creek one day to get some water to bring back for your grandpa who's 140, and then like literally just seeing like a monarch 180, 190, and it's just like, damn it.
I know. That's what I think about. Yeah. What do you think on that? Do you think they were bigger?
I mean, I would like to think so. Yeah. Like if I had to choose like one way or the other right now, I would say they were bigger. Like, and kind of like what you said, maybe not the top end like that much bigger. I think it probably was a little bigger, but they were probably more common for sure, I would think.
I would think. Yeah. If they had the Boone and Crockett record books, like, bet there was a lot of them. Dude, the trad bow kills would be nuts. How many big ones got killed? So this is a good topic. Number 8. Working our way through these. Should you hunt after you bump a buck? So old bump and dump. What do you think of old bump and dump?
I think yes. And I
Wrong.
didn't do that. Yeah, well, apparently there's always going to be somebody, so you might as well be the first. I think I did this wrong last year because very first into that trip at into the Ruckation, remember down off that one spot where Jordan and Justin like to be. I was more down towards the left of there, and probably 200 yards from my truck, I thought I jumped like probably at least a 130 class deer. And I was like, dang it, he was with the doe. And again, you don't know where they bed, but in this instance, it was bedded just like literally in the bottom of the strainage, literally in the bottom. And the doe started blowing at me and then ran down the drainage a little further where, of course, it was out of view because at past 75 yards, you're just like, don't know where they're at. Started blowing again. Well, come to think of it, I should have set up right there and just been like, you know what? If they didn't smell me, which I guess I didn't have the same mindset now, but like, I think if you bump something and you're walking with the wind to your face, I think you can get away with setting up. But if you bump something and it's the direction that they smelled you, I think most of the time, if they smell you first, you're not going to see them because they're just going to sneak out of there without blowing or anything. But if you bump them, and I think even if they blow at you, but if they don't smell you, I say set up there. And I didn't do that last season, but I should have. I have no anecdotal proof or whatever, but, and again, which I don't want to be that guy, not having really any anecdotal proof, but listening to other people. But there's some people like, for instance, Aaron Warbritton from the Hunting Public.
Yep.
He was talking about that, and I kind of trust his experience, right? Like you can kind of vet out who's done it, who hasn't. Obviously, if you watch any of the Hunting Public stuff, you can tell he knows his stuff. And he was talking on that and basically made the same point. And I was like, yeah, like that makes sense because like the one thing you cannot beat is the deer's nose, allegedly. But allegedly. Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about it. Like bump and dump, like obviously don't trek through there like you're Cameron Haynes trying to run a marathon, right? Like hunt your way through it, I guess, where you should. Obviously, I didn't think I needed to hunt that close or start hunting through it that close from the truck or to the truck. But again, I guess it's all situational.
I'd probably agree with what you said. Like, it seems like the more that we hunt the mountains, the more I get comfortable bumping deer. Because it's just like when 80% of the freaking place is bedding, it's like you're gonna bump some deer. So I've bumped deer like out from under the tree that I'm hunting in to get up in a tree. So it's like, but I agree with you. Generally speaking, like I honestly think it's worse to be smelled than it is to be seen. because when you consider that deer have like 20/60 vision and that their vision is like super wide and kind of blurry, it's like they probably didn't even know exactly what that was when they saw. But when they smell you, it's like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I think if you're planning on doing a bump, I know there's a lot of people that bump and dump on deer drives with scent. Like they walk,
Oh yeah,
like they use their scent to bump, right? So from that sense, like wind with your face, walking in, bumping something, it would, I'd have no problem getting up in a tree after that. Like that
well,
wouldn't bother me.
there's a lot of different stories that you can hear if you look hard enough of people like saying, "Oh, like I bumped a big old buck, walking through trying to get to my pen that I set that was, half a mile away, and ended up bumping them on my way back too from that hunt, and it, for sure the same buck." And then I was like, "Well, he really not going to come back anymore." And so when you go to walk to that same spot the next day, you walk through the same area and you bump them again. There's stories like that. So like if they don't really know what you are, I think the first time you bump them, it's going to be okay to hunt. Like obviously the third time you bump them, that deer might be like, okay, I kind of need to get out of this scene for a little bit. But for the most part, like especially if it's bedded there, right? Like they bed there for a reason, like because they feel like they have an advantage because obviously they bedded there. Something that they didn't really know about was walking towards them or walking by them or something along those lines. They got up from their bed, ran away, they survived to live another day. So of course, like that setup worked. Why
It
wouldn't
worked, yeah.
why wouldn't they bed there again? Like it's kind of stupid not to. That's like you shooting a deer 3 years in a row out of one tree. Like, are you gonna hunt there that fourth year? Probably. I would. So it's just like, I mean, think of it that way, and it's kind of eye opening.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a good point. That's a great place to wrap that one. So, number 9. What's the one encounter? Oh, wait, are you supposed to ask this one?
I can, yeah.
Go ahead.
So number 9, what's that one encounter that lives in your head rent free?
I think everybody has one.
And it doesn't
Everybody
have to be
probably
an
has one.
encounter. Like it can be whatever.
I'm going to talk about a shot opportunity, or just a terrible shot. When I was like 18 or 19, I was hunting on public land. I bought a bow from Academy like 2 days before I went on this trip. I went down and shot 2 does on my first evening hunting this public land. Drug them both out. Michael Justin was like, "Well, you saw a bunch of deer. You should go back and hunt that spot the next morning." Well, I hunted the next morning, and we had this big old 8-point on trail camera, like legitimately 140-inch 8. You hear 140-inch 8, you're like, "Oh, BS." No, 140-inch 8.
You have
Like,
pictures confirmed.
Yeah, I have pictures. I'm talking like 12 or 13-inch G2s, 11-inch 3s, 5-inch eye guards, huge beams, good width. Like it was a beast. Well, I watched this deer work in for like at 9 a.m. He comes in to like 25 yards. Well, I suck at hunting at this moment, especially bow hunting. So I shoot. I'm so nervous pulling back my bow. I've never even seen anything close. This is 50 inches bigger than anything I've ever shot.
And you've been watching them for a while too, which
I watched them for like 30 minutes. It was terrible. It was like torture. I pull back on this deer and I shoot, and I was just gonna airmail him. Like I was gonna shoot right in front of his brisket. But when I shot, his head was down. So I wasn't shooting a lot of poundage. My bow was pretty slow. So when I shot, he turned his head to like kind of look exactly where it was coming from. And I hit him right in the forehead. Dead in the forehead. Like, and it sounded like Barry Bonds hitting a baseball, dude. It sounded like you broke a bat over somebody's leg. Like it was like, whack. And I remember him stumbling, and it was like Mike Tyson had hit him with the right hook. Like, dude, he stumbled bad. And I was like, how is that deer standing up? Like, I have no idea how this deer's standing up. He runs off, and the only thing I can see as he's running off through the grass is just an arrow wiggling through the grass. Like, it got like half an inch of penetration. This is a Muzzy 4-blade, fixed blade broadhead right to the dome piece. He runs off. I find the arrow broken off at the insert. Never found the deer. Still one of the biggest deer that I've ever shot. Shot him right in the freaking forehead. idiot move, but it just happened that way. It was nuts.
Yeah. Well,
that one lives in my head.
Rent free for sure. For sure. Mine, dude, same place. Not the same time period, obviously, but same piece of public. That would be mine too. And we talked about this the other day. Just a quick story on mine. It's again that same piece of public, but he was like I don't know if he's a mainframe 12 or whether he had 5 or 7. I don't know, but at the time, biggest buck of my life, and it was one of the very first few times I hunted public at all. And long story short, came out, shot behind the shoulder. It let out this god awful roar, like started doing a ditch digger, ran out of sight, no recovery. Well, to wrap it with your story, it's just like, and we talked about this the other day, is we feel like it would have been fool's gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's probably better we didn't get those bucks. Like, yeah, they'd make the wall look a heck of a lot better, but it's just like that sense of like, hey, we for sure didn't deserve these deer. I mean, heck, we don't deserve any of the deer we have on the wall, but it's just like, I mean, I think those, it sparked it, but it also kind of put that chip on our shoulder that was just like, no, I can get this done.
Yeah. Yeah, that buck was a freaking monster. Both those deer were freaking beasts, especially as like neither of us had grown up seeing deer like that. So to see those on public and both get shots at them with a bow, I'd have been like, dude, we got this thing figured out. We got public figured out, but we still don't. A decade later. Yeah.
No. All right. Whoops. Number 10. Ooh, so this one was actually, I'm actually going to look up his name real quick because he sent us this message on Instagram, and it was a
guy sent this in.
Yeah, he sent it on Instagram.
Really?
I want to give him a shout out real quick. His name is Trey. I'm going to murder this. I'm sorry, Trey. Trey Pritchard.
Yeah, that's got to be it.
And yeah, he said, pod topic, who's on your Mount Rushmore of hunting? You get one TV influencer, one YouTube influencer, one podcaster, and one wild card. See who's got the better whitetail killing team put together at the end.
Dang.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a great question. One TV influencer, one YouTube influencer, and one wild card.
If you want to think on it for a second, you can, because I kind of gave this one some thought, so I'll go first, and then let me pull up my notes. Actually, I might not even need to. So for the TV influencer, here's the thing about it. Like, my TV is YouTube now, and I assume the same for yours. But I was like, you know what? Just for the sake of this question, TV, Meat Eater is considered a TV show, correct?
I guess technically.
Yeah, it is, I think. So my TV influencer would be Steven Ranella, I think. Like, that's like the only one I could think of. Like, he could say Drury Outdoors and stuff like that, but I just don't really relate with them, right? And then for the YouTube, I put, this is pre-Meat Eater, since we like these guys. But Tyler and KC from The Element.
That's 2. You got to pick one.
Damn it.
Gotta pick one.
If I gotta pick one, I think I want to say KC. I think I'm going to say KC. No offense to Tyler at all, but like, I don't know. I like that fullback mentality. You know what I mean? Okay. I don't know. Why'd you have to do that?
Because it's 2 people. It's cheating.
Anyways, so the podcaster, I put part of Meat Eater. It's weird. All these are kind of lining up with Meat Eater, but I put Tony Peterson because it's like a segment of Wired to Hunt. If you guys are
wild card.
No. This is just for the podcaster, because Tony Peterson has a podcast on Wired to Hunt called Foundations. It's like a little different segment other than Mark Kenyon's Wired to Hunt. So he does Foundations and like basically touches on some like really important topics, which I like because it kind of brings it like the whole hunting space down to earth, I feel. And then for my wild card, I already said his name once before in here. I put Aaron Warburton. because again, I've been listening to a lot of him, and he just seems like that good old boy, and that's probably why I like the Element too. Like they're just some good old boys.
All right. Well, I put yours in the chat. So you got Steven Ranella,
right?
Casey Smith, Tony Peterson, and Aaron.
That's
Woodruff.
wrong to make me split the duo up, dude. I feel bad.
Yeah, dude. I feel like I should just take Tyler just to spite you.
Oh, okay. Well,
no. Okay. So Mount Rushmore, honey. You get one TV influencer. I already thought about this one. And I think I'm going to win based on my first pick here. Michael Waddell.
Okay.
Waddy, bang, baby, big butt killer. Been doing it forever, all around the country. Okay. One YouTube influencer is a nice one. I'm gonna take Chris B.
God, you're such a simp. You're a simp.
Hey, you said the Mount Rushmore. You didn't. So next is a podcaster.
Yes, a podcaster. And you can't say me. I know I'm up there, but
I'm trying to think which podcast. The Tony Peterson was a really good one. That was a really good one for the podcaster. Well, I'm gonna take.
He also likes hunting around water. So do I. So.
Well, little do you know, this man is a podcaster and in fault. He is technically a podcaster.
Okay. You're okay. So this is what you're doing. You're taking like
the best.
Imagine I'm like, okay, we're playing Madden, right?
Yep.
Right now, my team's looking like the Patriots, like with Tom Brady, right?
Yep.
What you're doing is you're going back to like the Madden overall 99, like all-star team. Yeah, that's what you're doing right now.
Well,
don't worry. I'm still confident in my team, but
well, my wild card is Sexton Pope. That's going to be the last one that I have.
Why do you say that?
Well, he wrote an amazing book, Hunting with a Bow and Arrow, and he's one of the founders.
Seems
of
like
Pope
a basic title, but okay.
It was written in like 1920, I think.
Okay.
And then one of the founders of the Pope and Young Club, freaking pioneer of bow hunting. So that's and also he's so old that you guys don't even know the kind of skills that he has. Imagine if he had a compound, dude. Saxon Pope with a crossbow. It's over.
Must not have been too good if you have to research stuff about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, all his DVDs weren't out yet when I went to watch him on YouTube. So I got Waddell, Chris B, Dan Infalt, Saxton Pope. That's who I got.
Okay, so let's just take this one step further and compare. So we have Steven Ranella versus Michael Waddell. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? You put them. Let's say
I guess this isn't for whitetail either, is it?
No, I mean it can kind of be for whatever. I guess. I mean I kind of base mine around whitetail or whatever. But I think, damn, dude, Michael Waddell. If we base it around whitetail, I think Steve would get beat. But if we base
the question was hunting in general, though,
right? But if we base it around anything, like whether it be goat or moose or elk or muley or something, I think Steve takes the cake against Michael.
And my second answer there would have been Jim Shockey, and
that's a good one. I think that would have been a better runner.
Steve, I don't know. I think it's hard.
It's your list.
Yeah, Steve is. It would be hard to beat for like an overall pick on like just hunting in general. I give that one to Steve probably.
Okay. So we got Casey Smith versus Chris B.
I don't know. Casey's a killer.
If we want to, we can add Tyler and Casey into this, but then it'd be a 2v1. But I guess one could be filming and one and put their minds together. But again, that wouldn't be fair. So I guess Casey Smith versus Chris B.
I don't know. I've seen Casey kill some big ones. I think Chris B's a little more diverse. He's got a little more diversity in his killing style.
I don't know, man. Casey's killed elk. He's I don't know if he has a mule deer yet. I know Tyler does, but
I don't know.
But then again, Chris has, I think, killed an elk. He's killed a moose.
He's got a speed goat. He's doing pretty good. Got a good resume.
Just from the diversity, and I know there's like different circumstances and things about but I would probably have to give this one to Chris.
Yeah. All right. So we're 1-1 going to this one. So for the podcaster,
Dude, this one's good.
Tony Peterson versus Dan Infault. Who's better at podcasts? Tony Peterson.
Dude,
he's a beast on the mic.
For the longest time, I didn't know what Tony Peterson actually looked like. I just was kind of like trying to make up an avatar based on his voice.
Yeah.
Dude, it was like shell shock because like I finally looked up a picture of him and I was like, dude, that voice does not match that
really
face. Yeah,
that's kind of what I thought he would look like.
I didn't think so.
What do you think on this one, Dan Infault or Tony?
Dude, I'm going with Tony. Like Dan's cool, but I mean, trust me, he knows his stuff about whitetail bedding, but think of the broad spectrum of hunting in general. I think Tony takes the cake.
Think so?
I think so.
Well, Dan Infault's on social media, so he won't hear this, but I mean, yeah, I could go with that. I'm okay with that one. Okay, Tony's a beast. I mean, you did get to go first, so no crap. You got some.
You could have taken the same one. It's fine.
No, I can't do that. All right, last one. This is your wild card. All right, we got Aaron Warbriton versus Saxon Pope.
What you got,
dude? This is like Tyson Fury versus Muhammad Ali. This just transcends time. The godfather of bow hunting, man. I don't know. How could you beat that?
I mean, it is called Pope and Young and not Warbriton and Young. So
that's a pretty good name too, though.
I don't know. It's a hard comparison just from time related because you think Saxon actually had that difficult of hunting pressure that Aaron's had. And Aaron's killed elk. He's killed whitetail. He's killed a lot of stuff.
He didn't have this crazy thing called a cam on a bow. Like there was no cams. There was no. He was bow hunting.
See, now you're just getting technical.
Yeah. This is like the debate. Like the guy who kills with a compound all the time, and then like the trad guy comes in. He's like, dude, it didn't even shouldn't be in the record unless it's a trad.
Yeah. I mean, dang, this one's tough. I'll let you make the decision on this because I can go either way.
I'm biased. I mean, this is like
I'll tell you what. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No,
I was just going to say we can leave this unsettled because right now I'm up 2-1, right?
Yeah.
I'm up 2-1. What we can do is we can leave this to the audience and the TikTok and Instagrammers.
That's fair.
On whether this is a tie or whether this is straight out domination.
All right. Well, that's what we'll do. We'll leave it up to the folks. We got Steven Ranella versus Michael Waddell, Casey Smith versus Chris B, Tony Peterson versus Dan Infault, and Saxton Pope versus Aaron Warbriton. You guys tell us what you think. I mean, I know my team won, but I mean, send us a message.
The thing is your team can't win. If anything, it's going to be a tie. So,
well, the people might be like, dude.
I guess that's a head-to-head. We can do it overall too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the best we come up. That's pretty good. That's pretty good Mount Rushmore. I mean, there's definitely some new age people in here. The real Mount Rushmore might be a little older than some of these folks that we're talking about.
And it would. I mean, I think we both just based this off of what we personally like. Because I guarantee a lot of people are going to be like, how come Seek 1 ain't up there or something along those lines? And it's just like, I mean, great. But I mean, I watch their stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not crazy about the urban hunting scene.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Well, that was a pretty good episode. I hope people enjoyed talking about some age-old hunting debates. And if you guys enjoyed these kind of off-the-wall episodes, trust me, we have a ton of ideas. We can make more of these. We could easily come up with more things to talk about. So, a couple things before we go. We just released a shed hunting video. Need to go check out that.
How many sheds again?
62.
62 sheds. Dang.
That's pretty good.
That's what is that? $31. Dang.
Whoa. Match sets. Whoa.
No.
That's live. We're doing a podcast with Joe Miles today. That's pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
That'll probably come out later this weekend, something like that. So that's coming. That's really exciting. we've got some new merch coming out. So be looking out on Instagram when we get that stuff in. We're going to send that to you. For the folks that have ordered hats right now, we had a few orders for camo hats. Those are coming.
I got mine, suckers.
Jake's got the OG, the original. That's coming. I'm trying to think what else we got going on.
If anyone's going to be at Beaver's Bend, we're more than happy to meet up,
talk,
say hi,
shoot some bows,
help find my arrows.
Might need some helpers for that. Yeah. We do have a new partnership coming. I don't think we'll talk about it on this episode, but it's going to be exciting. Just be on the lookout for that.
It's very exciting.
Very exciting for us and for you.
I thought you were going to spill the beans. I was like, we're going to have to edit this, man.
No.
You're going to have to edit this, man.
No. We got some exciting stuff coming. So anyways, need a saddle platform, need sticks. Ooh. Go check out Not on a Limb, HNTA10 for 10% off. If you like shopping in America, you're on that sustainability front, go get you something that's going to last forever. So
if you're from Oklahoma and you don't rock Out on a Limb, they're an Oklahoma-based company. So what are you doing? Support local business.
Yeah, okay. Small business, mom and pop shops, baby. Go get it. I think that's all we got on this episode. Be looking out for the Joe Miles episode. We got a lot of stuff coming over the horizon. Go check out the YouTube video, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Jesus loves you.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.